Hello, my name is Bruce Bailey, and I would like to chat with you for a few moments about DeMolay International. The great philosopher Plato said that there are two important questions that we must all answer, and that the answer to these questions can hold a clue to what the future will be. Plato's questions are, first, what are we going to teach our young people? And second, who is going to teach them? I'm reminded of a young man who was seeking his way in the world, and like all young men in their preteen and teenage years, was struggling with the questions that abound as we grow up. Why am I here? What should I be doing? What am I called to do? And as he pondered these questions, he finally found a mentor. Now, I know a lot of people that even in their 40s and 50s continue to struggle with those very same questions. And so mentors become very important. This young man found a mentor with whom he could sit and study and discuss. And they talked about everything. They talked about religion. They talked about politics. They talked about truth, about right and wrong. And everything imaginable was in their discussions. And as they discussed, and as the young man matured, he grew to an understanding of who he was, and more importantly, what he was called to do. As time went by, he moved away. But he always kept deep within his heart and his mind the lessons of his mentor and stayed in touch. Finally, one day, as he had reached maturity, he realized when he wakened that this was the day that he was called to. This was the day to make his mark, to do that for which he had been prepared. So he got up, prepared himself, left home, caught a cab, went to the airport. As he boarded his plane, coincidentally, he was boarding a plane that my cousin was boarding. Now, my cousin lived in Princeton and commuted in and out of New York and traveled pretty generously for his company. So they both boarded their plane, took their seats, and they had an uneventful takeoff. And a few moments into the flight, our young man rose from his seat and, along with some comrades, commandeered the aircraft, hijacked it, and flew it into the World Trade Center. It was American Airlines Flight 11 on the morning of September the 11th. And that day, we learned a powerful lesson. There are a lot of lessons that came out of September the 11th, but there's one paramount lesson that we must learn. And we owe a debt of gratitude to Osama bin Laden for teaching it to us. The lesson is this: when you capture the heart and mind of a 12-year-old, you gain the ability to change the face of the earth within one single generation. Ponder that. That's exactly what bin Laden did. He captured that young man's heart and mind. And when those fellows rose and took command of that airplane, they were not functioning as 30-year-olds. They were functioning with 12-year-olds' hearts and minds. Which takes us back to Plato's questions. What are we going to teach our young people? And who is going to teach them. Now, in the order of DeMolay, we have several very basic lessons. They're called our precepts. And they give us the foundation to answer Plato's first question about what we're going to teach our young people. So then we are left with the second question. Who is going to teach them? Every day we watch the news. There's stories of war everywhere, all around the world. It's not a war for territory. It's not a war for strips of property in Afghanistan or Iraq or anywhere else. It is a war for the hearts and minds of young people. And it's being fought on the streets of Albuquerque, Des Moines, Iowa, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Orlando, Florida, Dallas, Texas, small towns, large cities, everywhere. The war is being waged, and we must join in. So we have to look at Plato's questions. And it answers something else. I remember watching television on the morning of September the 11th, and I was watching young children streaming out of madrasa schools, and they were elated, joyful, waving flags and shouting in the triumph of September the 11th. If you saw that, you felt probably as I felt, just shocked at how there could be such elation over that kind of an event. And then I realized their hearts and their minds had been captured. So we come full circle and we look at Plato's questions. What are we going to teach our young people? We offer some answers to that. The next big question is, who's going to do the teaching? And that's where you may come in. But I suggest there are two other questions that we need to append to Plato's questions. So now there are four. What do we teach our young people? Who's going to teach them? How are you going to answer Plato's questions? And what are you going to do now? Thank you.